deal, just Scott about to make me cry before I gotta come up here. Can everybody hear me in the back okay? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much to Scott and the Streetlight Guild for having me. It's seriously an honor to be here. Please donate to the Streetlight Guild. Keep this place going like he does so much. Please give him money. And it's such an honor to be here alongside Sayuri. And thank y'all for being here. Thank you for coming tonight. And so I'm really glad that Scott said this ain't the symphony, because when I was taught public speaking, it was make people laugh, and then you make people cry. So you're gonna get a full roller coaster tonight. I'm gonna start with some quirky queer poems with lots of finger guns, bisexual energy. And then I'm going to talk about Palestine and the genocide against my people and divorce and all kinds of hard shit. But you know what? We're going to get there together. It's going to be okay. I promise. It's all good. So y'all ever go to the really, really free market in Wineland Park? Who's been before? Nobody? Damn. Okay, one person, wow. Okay, well, you're missing out because it's fucking great. But what I love about it is it's like a queer meetup, because, like, real talk, that's where we're getting all our best outfits. So it's like a yard sale where nobody pays. It's a mutual aid thing. You bring stuff you don't want, put it there. People take stuff they do want. And that's it. No money is exchanged. It's really great. But yeah, so one day while I was there, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could just, like, trade body parts as easily as we trade clothes? Like, we could be like the Potato Head family. And so that got me down a Google rabbit hole, as one does. And I ended up researching the Potato Head toys, and I came across this quote that became an epigraph to this poem. And for reasons you'll understand in a moment, it caused quite the stir in conservative media. They had lots to say about this. Quote, on February 25th, 2021, Hasbro dropped the honorific in the brand name and began marketing the toy simply as Potato Head, while retaining the individual characters of Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. However, several media outlets misinterpreted the announcement as stating that, God forbid, all Potato Head products would henceforth be gender neutral. Well, I had some things to say about that, so this first poem is Mix Potato Head at the Gender Swap Meet. At the yard sale where no one pays, they come to dump their cast-offs. The sequin jumpsuits that jived with gender just once. The fast fashion shoes size 11, because what drag queen has money for Manolos and she wouldn't wear them to the sticky floored gay club if she did, Henny. The 90s button-downs, all color block and embroidered polo players on the breast to worry the edges of top surgery battle scars in the making, and zines on brewing bathtub estrogen. Imagine if we could switch body parts as easy as clothes, like the Potato Head family. My mammoth memories for your phallus, ma'am. Your biceps for my muffin top. Your Adam's apple for my jutting jaw, and smooth cheeks for my cavernous pit of pleasure. Instead, a black derby hat for a plastic pearl necklace, a stick-on mustache, and blue sneakers for a pink pony purse and purple-lidded falsies. Your grandpa sweatered cottagecore for my fashion school fail-out eclectic. And so many bandanas in every color of the hanky code you could jump into like a pile of raked leaves and smile for a chosen family photo to go on the mantle of your childhood home. The ones that show, like the school pics and the glamour shots you wish you had. The ones that show who you've always been. Here's another fun one. Shout out to fellow bisexuals in the room. This one's called Ode to Short Nails. To the ones who drilled their thumbs into the macaroni box where it says, press here, and found the perforation unyielding, then said, damn, I thought I'd be better at this. To chip polish, to grown out gel, to bare finger barebacks as long as the cuticles are smooth. To every femme who first smeared her teeth with lip smackers, who goes to the salon and lies, says she's a bowler, so the tank won't ask questions. To the ones who cut pouches of edibles open with Leathermans, who know those zippers are homophobic. To the former biters who found better ways than hot sauce. To chunky sterling rings with cut diamonds that slice if finger fuck deep dip too far. To those who side-eye their PCP over diabetes testing supplies, fuck that finger prick when they never ask a man to poke his appendage. To finger flagging to denote faggotry, to the ones who clip and cut down to the quick, but who can still claw the eyes of a cishet man out for hitting on women at the gay bar. Gin dripped or bare, I see you, plain or paint adorned, I feel you, sheened with slick, I breathe you in, lover with short nails, I taste you, nectar, pit, skin. I was clearly on one when I wrote those. Sometimes people ask me, where do you get your ideas from? And most of the time I answer with like professional Mandy, which is, well, I pay attention to things and I notice things a lot and I constantly take notes and then I reference those notes later, which is true. But then I remember this next poem. So one night I took a big ass edible and got high as hell and I started thinking, you know that saying that people are always quoting about how there's 8,000 nerve endings in the clitoris? Wonder how they found that out. So I went down a Google rabbit hole and found out that that 8,000 number actually came not from counting the nerves in a human clitoris, but a cow clitoris. And I read that that original stat came out in the 70s, and it wasn't until just a handful of years ago, like 3 years ago, that they actually finally counted the nerves in a human clitoris, thanks to trans men getting phalloplasties. Shout out to trans men. And then somehow, that led to me reading a cattle breeding magazine and learning that cows are extremely frustrated bisexuals. Did y'all know that cows are extremely bisexual?
I did not.
I didn't either. I gotta tell you, it was a real surprise. But yeah, so I decided to write a poem about that, and it begins with an epigraph from one of the news articles that I read. Oh, and don't worry, you'll hear lines from the cattle breeding magazine directly in the poem. So this one is about the study on the human clit. Quote, the number of nerve fibers within the human clitoris has never been officially quantified. The most often cited claim is that the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings. But this figure originates from a bovine study in a book called The Clitoris, which appeared in 1976. So, this poem is called Ode to Cows and Clitorises. I imagine her, Bessie, a retired milk cow, 5 years old and sent to slaughter when her udders trickled too slow, intercepted by medical scientists who couldn't get funding to research what they really wanted to know. Bessie, stunned, then exsanguinated like her beef-destined brethren, tipped onto a metal table, bony legs aloft with rigor, a woman in dreaded anticipation of the embrace of her cruel lover. Bessie receives the scalpel instead in her tenderest of tender flesh, with science taking census of her pleasure. I think of Bessie cold with death, hacked insides onto microscope slides, and remember the times a man called me frigid, and more besides, who called me a cow for a rebuffed advance or less, heifer if he thought me fat, an insult so unoriginal as to be biblical. My own tender flesh, plush enough for a street corner shriek, but not a respectful fuck. If given no other choice, I too would rather ruminate in a field, ponder grass, and make lowing moans after morning cocks, or just because I was feeling myself. The dissectors need only count half, nerves or thread parallel, so they stop at 4,000 and multiply. An echoed climax Bessie didn't live to tell. And half a century later, Bessie gone to dust, surgeons count the nerves in the human clitoris and find 2,000 more. But I could have told them that. Find me behind a barn in the hayloft, straddling a lap on tractor seat. Bull dyke, reverse cowgirl, it's in the names. We come by it honestly. Cows will let another cow or heifer mount her before she'll stand for a bull, and she'll try to mount the bull before she'll stand for him to breed. I, too, have been a fat country queer, fed up with men and longing for a willing woman with digital dexterity. I, too, have bawled and wandered in search of euphoria in a body built for exquisite bliss. I, too, have been known to give up and give in, to take what I can get. Said we're about to take a hard left turn into the Palestine poems, but actually try to infuse humor in those too. So this one's funny to me because, so fun fact, there's no P sound in the Arabic language, and Arabic is phonetic. So like if you can read Arabic, you can pronounce it correctly. And the fact that there's no P is kind of a funny joke in my family. So this one's called Only an American. Just like the Brits to rename our country with a P as a letter we don't have, a sound our tongues wrestle to say, it's not Palestine like old buddy, old pal, old friend, but Palestine. They know Arabic is phonetic if they could read, but that's an occupier for you, unwelcome guest. We have names impossible to mispronounce, and yet they expect the world to say it their way. In their new country, my grandparents give their children good American names, impossible to mispronounce by the native born of this land. And they call their first child, a daughter, Patricia, with a P, because who would believe an Amma and Baba from Palestine would name their child with a letter their mouths refuse to speak, damned to a lifetime of calling her Bad Risha. Only an American would do that. Thing in the Midwest, but so I grew up in the Bible Belt, and maybe this, I don't know if this is like tied to Christianity, but I have only ever seen it in the Bible Belt, so maybe it is. But there's this cultural practice where if you have paid off your house, you get like a plastic or metal eagle to put over the door to tell everybody like, I own it, like it's mine. So that's going to be referenced in this next poem, also about my family, called The Metaphor of America. In 1976, my grandparents got a house that couldn't be taken away. An eagle over the door told the neighbors, this is ours, all ours. A brocade couch, avocado shag carpet, and ceramic cat statues. 2 stories, 2 fridges, 2 fig trees, and a 2-car garage. An extra of everything, in case one was stolen by settlers, taken by soldiers, an old habit forged in an older country. In the bicentennial, my immigrant grandparents owned a house and knew freedom, like fireworks and apple pie, free like a bird. But the couch was covered in plastic and crinkled when we sat. The carpet got mussed when we deigned to cross the room. So we didn't sit here and didn't walk there. We admired but did not touch. For them to have what they wanted was enough. In America, birds peck the apples heaving upon the trees, and fireworks frighten the birds until their heartbeat stops. This is the metaphor of America, to know freedom, but never freedom from fear of losing everything you've got. The energy's so good, I'm sweating. Thank you. Y'all didn't know y'all was gonna get a, Oh my gosh. Thanks for letting me be silly. I don't think, there's something to be said for poets or in poetry that makes you laugh, That's how I cope. I hope y'all are coping too. Okay, so this next one, I feel like I have to give this disclosure because this happened once. I read the title and every Muslim person in the room said, oh no. The title is Standing Barefoot on the Bible. Apologies to the Muslim folks in the room. especially any aunties who are the ones who really sigh about that one. Standing barefoot on the Bible. I'm grounded, lamenting a lack of preteen growth spurt, gravity keeping me from the top shelf. 2 phone books won't do, so I add the family Bible. A golden-edged tome with a white plush cover, the kind sold door to door by cons in the 50s when Cito and Teta immigrated to this country, back when Long Island was still potato farms, and the right of return was a near enough memory that Cito kept his old house key next to his worry beads. They prayed to the Christian God they could have their country back, let their grandchildren never know America, this land that teaches them to use Bibles as stepladders, as if holy books are not an attempt at ascension to the divine. Oh, lift me higher, 3 books of the enumerated names of ancestors and saints, thick as the wood of any cross. So, fun story. I was actually telling Scott before we got started that so I've lived in Columbus for 10 years now, and I actually did not write poetry before I lived here. I only wrote creative nonfiction, and it's only because of like Columbus being a poets town. There's so many poets, so many talented people, like opportunities like Streetlight Guild, the open mics at Cafe Kerouac, at $2 Radio, and so many more. Like there's, like you could literally do something in the poetry community every single night of the week and still have options. You would still have to like choose between multiple events per night sometimes. And I'm just really thankful for that because I don't think I'd be a poet without this city. And this poem that I'm about to read was actually like when I started taking my poetry seriously, it was the first one I wrote. And a little bit of backstory. So Palestinians invented Christianity, so it really pisses me off, and like my family's Orthodox Christian, and so it really pisses me off when people use Christianity as like an excuse to be hateful and discriminate against others. So whenever I hear that, I will like look at someone and, you know, with like all the authority I can muster and say, he didn't say that. It's not what it means. I should know. I'm Palestinian. Excuse me. So that's how I kind of like get back at people for all the times like the Baptist church would come to my Cito and Teta's house, that's Arabic for grandmother and grandfather, and try to convert them and then not believe them when they said they were already Christian and were from where Jesus grew up. So this one is called If Jesus Was Fat. They wouldn't have been able to hoist him up on that cross. All the paintings got his ribs showing, the contours of his stomach undulating from emptiness. A growl heard through centuries of canvas, enough to make you hungry just looking at him. If he had had meat on his bones, ate good like his Mama Mary wanted him to, he would have been better off. Might have pulled that cross right down, plopped that flimsy piece of lumber from the ground and said, I am. Imagine dying on an empty stomach. Could have been like Buddha, but chose to be a vacuum, a chasm instead. Then have the nerve to make a rule about gluttony when there's nothing about the sin of denying your own body. Like it doesn't carry you through this world. Like it isn't the one thing with you all your days. The one thing they cannot separate away. How am I supposed to believe this skinny bitch can do anything? How can he save me when he can't even save himself? So kind of going along with my theme of being like very in your face about like being a Palestinian who questions a lot of Christianity and is sacrilegious, much to the displeasure of their family. I wrote this poem recently, and it's funny, like that last poem I wrote was one of the first things that I wrote when I started taking my poetry seriously. This next one is called Jesus Was Trans, and it's one of the last additions to my manuscript. And it's inspired by my friend Shelby. I wrote this for her and I'm sharing it here with permission. But she is one of my trans friends who lives back home in Alabama, and she has been rejected by her family and has just had a really hard time with it. And she posted I guess it would have been a couple of days before I read this, but so a couple months now, but she posted, "I am nobody's daughter." And it just really broke my heart, and so I wrote this poem for her. Jesus was trans. To an inquisitive child, Baptists might reluctantly admit God is neither man nor woman, but I know Jesus is trans. She told me, picked the wig out himself and everything. I remember this when Shelby says she's nobody's daughter. There's no good word for an orphan like her, and I'm no parent, but girl, we raised ourselves. So I tell her, you are your own daughter. You are the woman that assigned male kid needed. Time isn't linear. You mothered and fathered and fucked yourself to being. You sacrificed your skin to an undeserving world through bodily transformation and was persecuted for it. What could be more holy than that? Time loops in on itself, and I see you in a sundress, a beribboned straw hat, and garden gloves, planting pink, blue, and white rows of roses. Decades from now, you'll look at your photos lining your hall, hair lengthening, skin glowing supple with care, eyes brightening with your signature shadow, and at the last frame on the wall, a mirror, you'll stop and say, I'm so proud of all you've been and all you've become. In another time when you return, anticipated, rapturous, and primed for worship, I hope you'll say instead, I'm no one's son. So, my Palestinian grandparents received so much xenophobia in Alabama that they actually refused to teach their children and grandchildren Arabic. And believe me, I've tried. It sounds real funny with a southern accent. But I have been trying, slowly but surely, to try to repair that language wound as an adult. And let me tell you, I have never felt so stupid as I do trying to learn Arabic. It is such a hard language. For some context, there are 12 million words in Arabic, as opposed to the Oxford English Dictionary has just over 175,000 in English. So there are multiple words for like the same thing in Arabic. And I learned, and often those are like really poetic translations when put into English. So for example, I learned that in Arabic, they don't say good night, it's transliterated to, I hope you wake up to goodness. And it's really beautiful, right? So I keep getting distracted trying to learn Arabic because I'll see something like that and it just stops me in my tracks and then I have to write a poem. So this one is called, I Hope You Wake Up to Goodness. In English, mothers tell their children good night, a kind but useless gesture. Good or not, the night always comes. In Arabic, the language that should have been my mother tongue, we say, I hope you wake up to goodness. On the other side of the world, unable to sleep for the sounds of bombing, mothers and husband pray, I hope you wake up to goodness or not, I just hope you wake up. Yeah. Is a continual source of inspiration for which I am very thankful. This next poem, you'll hear me refer to Sida, which is grandfather in Arabic. And this poem I actually wrote in November 2023. My mental health was absolutely wrecked and I couldn't sleep. It was like nearly 4 a.m. and I was just having a really hard time. And this poem, I feel like, showed up for me at a time when I really needed it, so I'm very grateful to it, and it's the first poem in my collection. It's called Ars Poetica of Partridges in Palestine. Cito told me once, our last name means partridge, that sweet little bird in the pear tree every Christmas. I'm looking for metaphors on Wikipedia again. It's easy to write poems about birds with so many species of partridges. National Geographic says 43 of those species are decreasing in population, something Palestinians know all too well. People like poems about birds more than they like poems about Palestine and actual Palestine and her endangered people. We just won't go extinct quickly enough. But I digress. That's not the metaphor I'm looking for just yet. An avian ecologist says partridges are ground dwellers, unlikely to roost in pear trees. So those first day of Christmas birds of the family Phasinidae, presents from one's true love, were put in pear trees against their will. Branches like an open-air prison the world ignores because at least they can still see sky. Some might say I'm reaching, but that's what metaphors do. But inside them, there's always a feather of truth. This I know. When it comes to partridges and Palestine, the pervasive popular messaging around us both is false. The difference is, everyone knows killing birds is wrong. So fuck yeah, free Palestine, free Sudan, free Congo, free New Caledonia, free Hawaii, free Haiti, free everybody who needs to get free. And make no mistake, the genocide against Palestinians is being funded by the US and carried out by Israel. The US could stop it at any point, and they're choosing not to. So in addition to like that, big blow to my mental health, in December 2023, I asked my husband at the time for a divorce and began living alone for the first time in my adult life. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And it gave me a lot of time to think, suddenly having this live-in partner to not, to just living alone, which is really nice, by the way. I'm just being real. But it gave me a lot of time to think about privilege and what I needed, what I wanted. And I was thinking about my younger self and would my younger self be proud of me. And I came across this quote from another poet, actually. It was Stephen Dunn in his poem, The Inheritance. And this couple of lines stuck with me. Quote, "Why not just try to settle in, take your place, however undeserved, among the fortunate? Why not trust that almost everyone, even in his own house, is a troubled guest?" So this poem is a letter to my younger self from about 12 years ago, called "To the Troubled House Guest of My Once and Future Self." I try not to laugh at you, who couldn't have known yet that it gets better is more truth than platitude, but only if you hold on long enough. You used to weep in your campus apartment for a cheap old house in a mid-sized city, big enough for a desk and yoga mat, a built-in bookshelf, cats basking in the windows, and curbside recycling. The luxury of an unpretentious life lived well. My love, you got the house and the cats, the desk and the mat, in a city greener than not, in a neighbor who teaches you the names of yard botanies, and listens when you tell her the one you know well. The fruitless grapevine that clings to your bush is the same varietal that twined Cito and Teta's chain link fence, the one she plucked from to make grape leaves your favorite. The neighbor will die peacefully of old age, and you'll take her cat, who will perch in the window with a view of the home she can't return to, howls of longing punctuating her days, and you'll wonder if she'd have rather died than leave. After, you'll lose the husband but keep the house and most of the cats. You will weep for him once, but live twice. You keep the house with the inheritance from your grandfather exiled from his own first home. What's the benefit of hindsight if not its comedy, the slapstick of your existence? Buying a home in the seat of empire while your friends suffer landlords thanks to your Palestinian family, and your property taxes fund the horrors that murder your cousins. You'll think of this every day, but keep the knives in the block this time, flush the leftover opioids from ankle surgery, and remember to drink water. And as you write this, on the eve of another ceasefire where the fire doesn't cease, reading the news as the clouder of cats crowds your lap, you'll gaze at the black and white photo of Siti, your great-grandmother, and her Ramallah Tatris, though taken in 1946, the year your house was built and older than Israel, and recall the story of her refusal when Cito came to this country saying, I was born in Palestine and I will die in Palestine. I just hope it will be free. Womb empty, you still carry her dream. You will be gloriously and improbably alive on this burning planet. Glad you stayed to see our wanting turn becoming. Remember to drink water. There's your homework for tonight. Please drink water. And what would I do without a little existential dread and climate anxiety too, right? So this next poem has both. It's called Marriage as the World Burns. Actually, this is the first time I've ever read this one, I just realized. So y'all are like the first people who are ever gonna hear this. Marriage as the World Burns. We should have talked about plate tectonics, about whether our earthly bodies yearned toward one another or drifted, and how inches turn into yards, turn into miles, about what we do if we collided, about collision and collision courses, about making mountains and moving continents, about being and becoming, about separation, about the Mariana Trench and Pluto's planetary ouster, and the looming dread of Mount Etna, and the unknown and the known and the known unknown, and the questions we didn't know to ask because we didn't know what we didn't know. We should have talked about plate tectonics and Boolean operators and ands and knots and ors, the Venn diagrams of true falses of the inevitable. Instead, we spoke of if-thens and let's-pretends. We talked about the weather, ever hotter, ever burning, 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 like we used to talk about us. We should have talked about plate tectonics. We should have had more to say. And I just have one more poem for you, but we're going to end on a happy note because there is a long, long tradition of love poetry in Palestinian literature. It is truly one of the things our literary tradition is best known for. Like if you've heard of Mahmoud Darwish, he is one of the preeminent love poets of the past century. I mean, he's incredible. So love poetry is a tradition that I'm very proud to take part of, and I feel like it's one of the most Palestinian things about me. And don't worry, the divorce is in progress, but you know what? I fell in love again. Shout out to that. And I'm really grateful to my partner, Michael, for showing me that divorce doesn't mean hanging it up forever. And I've written him many love poems, but I'm going to read his favorite one tonight. It's inspired by Ross Gay. It's called Small Delights. I leave your bed to collect trinkets, though I tell you I'm going to work. Little things, a first date at a coffee shop, a whimsical gravel rock, a PT Cruiser bedecked like a disco ball, a cat crossing the street on jaunty paws. The world is full of small delights. Still, the leaving is reluctant. What I wouldn't give to lay my head on your chest and curl my legs in yours, pretending clocks don't exist, we don't need money and the boss won't mind. Shake our fists at errands and hunger pangs. But then, how would I curate the world when you're not here? How would I see the little things, the poster for Lost Keys, the ticker tape of autumn leaves, the plastic dinosaur dropped in the parking lot, and think, I can't wait to tell you this. Thank you so